Chapter 1645. Young Master Dongfang, I guessed that you would come, so I have already prepared everything for you. The boss smiled. Dongfang Yu was a little surprised, then smiled and said, Boss is smart, you have already expected it. Under the guidance of the waiter, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others entered a private room. Good wine and dishes came one after another. Everyone had not eaten such delicious food for a long time. Today, they just wanted to reward themselves. Speaking of which, the combat effectiveness of their team was not weak. Apart from themselves, Xiao He, Xiao Bai, Bai Shi, Xiao Feng and Xiao Hu needed to eat a lot. Although Xiao Feng and Xiao Hu were still very young, their appetites were very amazing, and they ate a lot each time. When they were in the small world, they did not need to worry. They hunted a lot of monsters every day, so Xiao Feng and Xiao Hu could eat as much as they wanted. However, now that they were out of the small world, it was not so easy. Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu's pockets were rapidly shrinking. At this time, they realized how difficult it was for Hong Zhuang to raise 3 beasts. They were afraid that only the financial resources of their boss could afford to raise 3 beasts. If it was them, it would be very difficult to raise 1 beast. Now they only felt that if they did not earn money, the wind spirit tiger would starve to death with them. Since we are back, let's go see the principal, vice principal and the mentors tomorrow morning. Gong Shaoqing suggested. It was not early when they arrived in Sanglan City today, so they did not visit the principal and the others. As a part of Sanglan College, now that they were back, they naturally had to visit. Otherwise, it would be inexcusable. We also plan to do the same. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. This was the most important thing for them to come back. Then let's drink today. The private room was filled with hearty laughter. Everyone was extremely happy as they toasted each other. This was a rare relaxation after 2 years of hardship, and they just wanted to get drunk. The 5 beasts gathered together, and He Mu became the person who took care of them. Xiao He, Xiao Bai, and Bai Shi gobbled up the food without any qualms. Xiao Feng and Xiao Hu had never tasted such dishes before, so they were a little confused. However, after tasting the first mouthful, Xiao Feng and Little Tiger's eyes lit up, and they immediately followed Xiao He and the others to eat heartily. In comparison, eating demonic beast meat directly wouldn't taste as good as this. At this moment, Xiao Feng and Xiao Hu finally understood why the 3 beasties kept talking about coming to the restaurant to eat. This was simply a delicacy on earth. Eating these, they felt that their lives were complete. He Mu saw that the original 3 gluttons were already gluttonous enough, and now there were 2 more little gluttons. It looked like young madam and the others were going further and further on the path of raising gluttonous demonic beasts. On this day, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others set a record in elegant cloud residence. It was a record of eating the most. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others hadn't had enough hot food for a long time. Now that they were eating, they felt that the taste was simply too good to be true. Immediately, everyone started eating and drinking. Very soon, they were all cleaned up. Chapter 1646. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others came out of elegant cloud residence, it was already very late. Most of the people in Sanglan City had already rested. Everyone hadn't relaxed for a long time. After today's indulgence, they all walked to the special enrollment dormitory drunk. Of all the people present, only He Mu was still sober. Because he had to take care of the 5 beasts, he didn't drink before, but later he was pulled by Dongfang Yu and the others to drink a lot. In the end, he was also a little dizzy, but his situation was a bit better than the others. Everyone staggered all the way back to the special enrollment dormitory. He Mu helped everyone open the door. Bai Junyu entered the room and lay directly on the bed. He Mu then put Little Tiger in the room and then closed the door. Xia Jiqing and the others also returned to their own rooms. He Mu opened Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang's room. Bailey Hongzhuang walked directly into the room dizzily and lay on the bed, feeling very comfortable. Di Beichen also walked into the room. He only felt that his whole person was floating on the clouds until he was lying on the clouds. Hei Mu also walked into the room. The three beasts were tightly lying on his body, unwilling to get down. He was also very helpless. Hei Mu fell directly on the bed, and the three beasts slept beside him, looking very happy. Not only did Hei Mu and the others drink, but the three beasts also drank. They had always been curious about what kind of wine everyone drank and how it tasted, so they also tasted it. However, after tasting it, they only felt that their whole head was dizzy and their bodies became soft. They were very happy. Bailey Hongzhuang only felt a little cold at night and couldn't help but want to find a quilt to cover herself with. But after reaching out for a long time, she couldn't find the existence of a quilt at all. In the process of searching, Bailey Hongzhuang found a warm place beside her and immediately approached it. Suddenly finding a warm stove in this cold winter night, Bailey Hongzhuang felt extremely happy. She hugged the stove tightly and fell asleep. She also felt the stove hugging her tightly. The night gradually faded, and the sun slowly rose from the horizon. The first rays of dawn shone on the earth. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly woke up. Her slender eyebrows were slightly knitted. She had drunk too much wine last night. When she woke up in the morning, her head was still dizzy. Opening her eyes in a daze, Bailey Hongzhuang was about to get up when she suddenly found a handsome face in front of her, close at hand. Seeing this scene, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately woke up and couldn't help but be stunned. When she took a closer look, she realized that she was sleeping in Di Beichen's arms. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but recall how she felt cold when she was sleeping last night. She kept looking for a blanket and finally found a heater. She hugged it tightly and fell asleep. Could it be that heater was Di Beichen? Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang's face couldn't help but be stained with a crimson red. Her heart thumped wildly. Then, what should I do now? Bailey Hongzhuang's mind quickly worked. Should I take advantage of this opportunity to escape? Not to mention that Di Beichen's hand was still wrapped around her waist. If I leave now, Di Beichen will definitely wake up. If Di Beichen sees me in the process of escaping, wouldn't it be even more difficult to explain? Pretending to be asleep. That's right. Chapter 1647. After deciding what to do, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately pretended to be asleep. However, after closing her eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang saw that Di Beichen didn't move. She couldn't help but open her eyes again. Looking at Di Beichen at such a close distance, she only felt that Di Beichen's handsome face was like a sculpture, angular and impeccable. Thick eyebrows, charming eyes, a handsome nose, and seductive lips. His skin wasn't as rough as an ordinary man's, nor was it as delicate as a man's. Instead, it was somewhere in between, full of manliness. The sleeping Di Beichen was less domineering and evil, and more gentle and well-behaved. He was like the boy next door, giving people a different feeling. Bailey Hongzhuang's hand slowly stroked the contours of Di Beichen's face. Those slender, fan-like eyelashes were enough to make a woman feel ashamed. He was really very good-looking, Bailey Hongzhuang thought to herself. Even among the men she had seen in her 2 lives, there was still no one who could compare to Di Beichen. This was a face that no matter how you looked at it, you would never get tired of looking at it. It was perfect, flawless, and impeccable. Bailey Hongzhuang supported her head and stared at Di Beichen's face. The more she looked, the more unscrupulous she became. Di Beichen's sleeping appearance clearly meant that he wouldn't wake up in a short time. Therefore, she became bolder. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze moved from Di Beichen's eyebrows to Di Beichen's lips. His lips were also very good-looking. His beautiful rose-colored lips were always curved at a charming angle. When they opened and closed, they were filled with an indescribable charm. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was staring at Di Beichen, suddenly, a force came from the back of her head, and her body leaned forward uncontrollably. And her lips happened to be pressed against Di Beichen's lips. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was suddenly dyed with a touch of crimson. She could feel the warm touch on her lips, soft and slightly cool, with a faint mint smell. Di Beichen suddenly opened his eyes and licked his lips in satisfaction. His starry eyes were filled with a bright smile. My wife has looked at your husband for so long. Have you seen enough? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen's bright eyes. How could he be sleepy? Obviously, he couldn't be any more sober. This guy was just pretending to be asleep. You're pretending to be asleep. Bailey Hongzhuang blushed and looked at Di Beichen with dissatisfaction. This guy was too bad, he was simply a big bad wolf. Di Beichen curved his charming thin lips. If I didn't pretend to be asleep, how could my wife look at me so boldly? Looking at Di Beichen's devilishly charming and reasonable appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang's face was full of indignation. I didn't. You didn't. Di Beichen raised his handsome eyebrows and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a faint smile. His eyes were full of ridicule. I was very careful. Di Beichen held Bailey Hongzhuang's small hand and said slyly, just now, this hand kept brushing past my face. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately withdrew her hand and tried to quibble, I didn't. You didn't. Di Beichen narrowed his eyes and slowly approached Bailey Hongzhuang. You took advantage of me and you still don't want to admit it? Bailey Hongzhuang felt a dangerous aura and couldn't help but retreat a few steps. She still denied it. When did I take advantage of you? You're obviously the one who took advantage of me. Hearing this, Di Beichen suddenly laughed and flipped over onto Bailey Hongzhuang's body. Chapter 1648. Suddenly being covered by Di Beichen, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a touch of panic, and her beautiful face was quickly dyed with a touch of crimson. Di Beichen. What is he doing? Without waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang to react, Di Beichen's thin lips covered her red lips again. However, this kiss was not as shallow as before, but deeper. Tossing and turning, it was full of surging longing and possessiveness. Di Beichen originally only wanted to bully Bailey Hongzhuang, but he did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang's lips to be so magical. That touch of fragrance intoxicated and infatuated him, and he only wanted to go deeper and taste her sweetness. He missed her so much. For the past 2 years, he had missed her almost every day. He missed her smile, he missed her voice, he missed everything about her. Bailey Hongzhuang passively endured it at first. Although Di Beichen's kiss was urgent and domineering, Bailey Hongzhuang could still feel his gentleness. Gradually, Bailey Hongzhuang also responded to Di Beichen. She also missed him, missed everything about him, and hoped to see him soon, and hoped that she could always be by his side in the future. The atmosphere in the room gradually heated up. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was covered with red, and her breathing became a little faster. Di Beichen only felt that his body was about to burn up, and an uncontrollable desire exploded from his body. In such a blurred and ambiguous atmosphere, Di Beichen's big hand slowly covered Bailey Hongzhuang's softness. Feeling Di Beichen's action, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but be stunned for a moment. Her body stiffened for a moment, and her mind recovered a trace of rationality. She could not help but grab Di Beichen's hand, and did not let him continue. Di Beichen stared at Bailey Hongzhuang, his starry eyes filled with deep affection, longing, and a trace of nervousness. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen, and her heart suddenly softened. Yes, she was already Di Beichen's wife. After 2 years of testing, Di Beichen had already proven his sincerity. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang's hand gradually lowered. Noticing the change in Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen was shocked for a moment, and his heart could not help but surge. He hugged Bailey Hongzhuang tightly. He knew what Bailey Hongzhuang meant. Hongzhuang, I love you. Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang affectionately. He clearly understood Bailey Hongzhuang's feelings for him. I love you, too. Bailey Hongzhuang's face burst into a smile. Her expression was a bit shy, and her beautiful eyes were also filled with deep affection. However, at this moment, a knock on the door suddenly sounded. Hong Zhuang, are you up? Hearing this voice, Bailey Hong Zhuang was slightly stunned, and then said, I'm up. However, her voice could not help but be a bit hoarse. We will set off to see the principal in a while. You can come out after you freshen up. Xia Jiqing said with a smile. Last night, they were all drunk. Fortunately, they were all cultivators, and their physical fitness was very good. Being drunk would not have any impact on them. Yesterday, they came back too late and did not go to see the principal and mentors. If they did not go today, it would be unreasonable. Okay, I will come out in a while. Bailey Hongzhuang responded. Chapter 1649. There was a burst of footsteps at the door. Obviously, everyone was waiting for them to leave. There was no other way. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes showed a teasing and sly smile. She looked at Di Beichen playfully and said, we should get up. Even if Di Beichen was interrupted at this time, his eyes could not help but show annoyance. Damn it! Di Beichen's heart was helpless. This was really fate. Looking at Di Beichen's appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but giggle. She really saw Di Beichen like this for the first time. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's proud posture, Di Beichen's eyes narrowed and attacked again. After kissing Bailey Hongzhuang's lips, Di Beichen said, what a bunch of untimely guys. After tidying up, Bailey Hongzhuang walked out of the house and Di Beichen directly jumped out of the window. Although Di Beichen did not mind, he knew that if he went out with Hongzhuang would be embarrassed, so it was better for him to go out from the window. By the time Bailey Hongzhuang walked out of the room, almost everyone had already gathered. Hongzhuang, you are here. Xia Jiqing smiled. I slept in a daze last night and didn't know what happened. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Yes, everyone hasn't been so relaxed for a long time. She really didn't know what happened last night, just as she didn't know why she saw Di Beichen when she opened her eyes in the morning. Di Beichen and He Mu haven't come out yet. Bai Junyu said, He Mu seems to be drunk. He drank a little wine and got drunk. Although he was confused last night, he remembered that He Mu drank the least, much less than them. However, Darkwood's reaction was not much better than theirs. Bailey Hongzhuang's clear and bright phoenix eyes were deep in thought as she spoke, maybe He Mu didn't drink much before. As Di Beichen's secret guard, Darkwood had always been hiding in the dark, maintaining a clear mind at all times. He probably wouldn't drink at all. Yesterday, after Dongfang Yu and the others drank, they went crazy. They pulled He Mu and began to drink. Not only He Mu, even the 5 beasts drank a lot. People who drank alcohol for the first time tended to react more violently, so it was normal that Blackwood hadn't gotten up yet. Then He Mu must be feeling better now. Dongfang Yu chuckled. Although they didn't have much interaction with He Mu was an adorable fellow who easily left a good impression on others and was easy to bully. At this time, Di Beichen walked in from outside the dormitory. Everyone is already up. When they saw Di Beichen return from outside, everyone's faces were filled with surprise. Di Beichen, when did you get up? Xia Jiqing asked in surprise. I'm used to waking up early to cultivate. Seeing that you didn't get up, I went outside for a walk. Di Beichen's face was really red when he lied. His calm appearance, if Bailey Hongzhuang did not know what had happened before, she was afraid that she would have believed it to be true. You're really amazing. Xia Jiqing looked at Di Beichen with admiration. The young lord of Tiangang's sect was really extraordinary. He must have cultivated harder than them. Not only Xia Jiqing, but Dongfang Yu and the others also admired Di Beichen. Chapter 1650. After experiencing so many things, their thoughts were much more mature than before. Wanting to be in a high position was never as simple as looking at reputation. For a genius like Di Beichen, if he didn't work hard enough, his strength and status would be coveted by many. If not for this, Bewitching wouldn't have become the prince of Fengbo country. Although they didn't know much about these things, they vaguely understood some things. In their eyes, Bewitching was an insurmountable mountain, their role model. Seeing Bewitching happily accept everyone's praise, even Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but blush for Bewitching. This guy's face was completely trained. If it was an ordinary person, they wouldn't be able to hide it. Hey Mu hasn't woken up yet. Baisher and the others should be with Hey Mu. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was light and sweet. Her gaze turned to Bewitching, asking for Bewitching's opinion. Ever since Hey Mu came, the three beasts had stuck to him. Thinking about it, Hey Mu would be taking care of them for the next few days. After all, Hey Mu was the easiest to bully. Since Hey Mu hasn't woken up yet, let him continue to sleep. He usually doesn't drink alcohol, but he suddenly drank too much yesterday. I'm afraid the after effects won't be small. Bewitching smiled. Hey Mu had been by his side since a long time ago. They practically grew up together. Although he usually cultivated hard, he still had time to relax. However, Hey Mu didn't. Hey Mu always strictly protected him in the dark. Sometimes he would pull Hey Mu to relax, but Hey Mu stubbornly persisted. He didn't think that yesterday, when Hey Mu was taking care of the three beasts, Dongfang Yu would directly pull Hey Mu over and force him to drink without saying anything. However, this was also good. Hey Mu could also relax, but the after effects weren't very good. After confirming from Bewitching that Hey Mu had never drunk alcohol, Dongfang Yu's expression couldn't help but change. He never thought that Hey Mu had never drunk before, so when Hey Mu said that he didn't drink before, he didn't believe him at all. He directly forced Hey Mu to drink a lot. She didn't expect Hey Mu to be telling the truth. She felt a little embarrassed. Hey Mu has never drunk alcohol before. He is really strict. Bai Junyu couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. They all knew Hey Mu's identity, so they could naturally guess the reason why Hey Mu didn't drink. From this, one could see how serious and responsible Hey Mu was. Let's go see the principal first. I believe the principal already knows about our return. Gong Shaoqing's cold face was filled with wisdom. Based on his understanding of the principal was probably already waiting for them to pay their respects. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other and nodded. Okay, let's go. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others immediately walked out of the special enrollment dormitory and slowly walked in the direction of the principal's office. Along the way, they passed by the martial arts arena where the cultivators were practicing. Suddenly, all eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. After yesterday's understanding, the students of the Azure Water School almost all knew about the deeds of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Therefore, everyone's eyes were now looking at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, full of yearning. Chapter 1651. The principal's office was not far from the special enrollment dormitory. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others arrived at the principal's office after a short walk. Knock knock. Gong Shaoqing stepped forward and knocked on the door. Among all of them, Gong Shaoqing was the most familiar with the principal. Kacha. The door was directly opened. Ren Tianxiong personally opened the door. After seeing Gong Shaoqing and the others, his kind and dignified face suddenly showed a happy smile. Welcome back, Principal. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others respectfully bowed. Their faces were full of smiles. At this moment, Ren Tianxiong did not dare to accept Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' salute. This was because after Bailey Hongzhuang and the others came back from the assessment, their status was different from before. We have been waiting for you for a long time. Come in quickly. As Bailey Hongzhuang and the others walked into the room, they found that the vice principal, Huan Chuyu, Lu Huayan, and Fu Hongba were all in the room. Looking at this appearance, it was obvious that they were waiting for them. Seeing this scene, the smiles on everyone's faces deepened a little. After seeing Di Beichen, Ren Tianxiong and the others all saluted Di Beichen and said, "Greetings to the young sect master." Although they were the principals and teachers of the Azure Water School, standing in front of the young sect master of the Tian Gang sect, they were simply not enough. The young sect master had a noble status. Anyone who saw him had to salute. "Since I came to the Azure Water School, I am a student of the Azure Water School. You are my principals and teachers. How can you salute me?" Di Beichen said aloud. With his status, except for the various sect masters and aristocratic family heads, everyone who saw him had to salute. But he was once a student of the Azure Water School. Naturally, he would not accept the salutes of Ren Tianxiong and the others. "Yes, Beichen is right," Bailey Hongzhuang said. Seeing Di Beichen's gentle expression, Ren Tianxiong and the others exchanged glances before returning to their original attitudes. From the beginning to the end, Di Beichen didn't want to be a student of the Azure Water School. Di Beichen came to the Azure Water School for Bailey Hongzhuang. They were well aware of this. They didn't dare to say that Di Beichen was a student of their school. The dignified Tian Gang sect's young lord was a student of their school. Even if they spread the news, no one would believe them. They would only be laughed at. They also didn't expect that Di Beichen would come back with Bailey Hongzhuang. It seemed that Di Beichen really liked Bailey Hongzhuang. "We are so happy to see you all back safely." Huan Chuyo's face was filled with a kind smile. When Gong Shaoqing and the others left, they were very worried. They heard from Cui Haoyan that they went to participate in the exam. As the vice principal of the Azure Water School, he had seen a lot of things. He naturally knew the risks of participating in the exam. What's more, Qingyue had been asking him about this. Now that he saw everyone come back safely, he was finally relieved. Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hongbo's faces were also full of joy. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were students they were proud of. Now that they saw them come back safely, as mentors, they also felt very proud. "Sit," Lu Huaiyan quickly said. Chapter 1652. After not seeing you for 2 years, you guys have matured a lot. Lu Huaiyan sized up Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. When he first recruited Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, they were still very immature. After 2 years of the assessment competition, that immaturity had gradually faded. Just by looking at their changes, Lu Huaiyan could understand how much they had experienced during the assessment competition. In comparison, Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng had also worked very hard during these 2 years. However, their changes were not as good as Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Dongfang Yu chuckled, participating in the assessment competition, it is very difficult to not mature. People would always grow, especially when they were in a difficult situation. The assessment competition was a difficult situation for them. After 2 whole years, they went from being careful at every step to being feared by others. Not only did their bodies grow stronger, their hearts also grew stronger. Hearing Dongfang Yu's words, Huan Chuyu and the others smiled and nodded. Although they had not participated in the assessment competition, they had a certain understanding and knew that Dongfang Yu was telling the truth. Fu Hongba sized up Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, his eyes revealing a bit of surprise. "I see that your strength has increased a lot." Thinking back, he could see through Gong Shaoqing and the others' strength with a single glance. But now, he could not see it clearly. He could only feel that their auras were much stronger. The elemental energy in the assessment competition is very dense, comparable to twice the outside world. Therefore, we have improved a lot in these 2 years. Gong Shaoqing said with a smile. Cultivating in the pocket world for 2 years was equivalent to cultivating in the outside world for 4 years. Naturally, their improvement was greater than ordinary cultivators. What's more, the various things they had experienced had also increased their strength, so their improvement was greater. When Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng heard this, their eyes were filled with envy. When they first went to Tiangang sect, they found that the yuan power in Tiangang sect was extremely rich and felt that it was a suitable place for cultivation. They did not expect the elemental energy in the pocket world to be so dense. No wonder Gong Shaoqing and the others' strength increased so quickly. Thinking back, Cui Haoyan and Gong Shaoqing's strength was not too different. Sometimes, they could even compete. However, now, Cui Haoyan already knew the gap between them just by feeling Gong Shaoqing's aura. In 2 years, he had been left far behind by Gong Shaoqing. He could not catch up at all. Not only Cui Haoyan, but Zhang Yunfeng also felt it very obvious. At that time, Xia Jiqing's cultivation was not as strong as hers, but now Xia Jiqing's strength was much stronger than hers, not to mention Bailey Hongzhuang. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang and the others came back, she did not ask them how their cultivation had improved. Because she did not want to take too big of a shock. Before, Lu Qingyue had already told her that regardless of whether a cultivator could achieve results in the assessment competition, as long as they could come back alive from there would be a great improvement. Obviously, everyone's improvement are joining. Ren Tianxiong thought for a moment and hesitated for a moment before he asked the question he wanted to ask. Chapter 1653. Although he knew that the possibility was small, Ren Tianxiong still decided to ask. At the very least, he could confirm a conclusion. We have all joined Tiangang sect, Gong Shaoqing replied respectfully. Ren Tianxiong and the rest were stunned for a moment and looked at Gong Shaoqing and the rest in surprise. Logically speaking, it was extremely difficult to join a sect. In fact, they didn't have much hope at all. However, Gong Shaoqing's extremely natural answer shocked them. Joined Tiangang sect. And all of them joined. How was that possible? Ren Tianxiong and the rest felt that it was impossible, but Gong Shaoqing did not seem to have any reason to lie. As a result, they really couldn't understand what was going on. They did not participate in the assessment competition, but they knew that only cultivators in the top 100 could join the top 10 sections. How many dynasties were there in the Xingxian continent? The number of cultivators was even more shocking. Only the geniuses among geniuses could become one of the top 100. Yet, Gong Shaoqing said that all of them had joined. Ren Tianxiong and the rest could not help but look at Di Beichen. Perhaps it was because Di Beichen was the young sect master of Tiangang sect that Gong Shaoqing and the rest could become a member of Tiangang sect. Even so, it was still something to be happy about. As long as they became a member of the sect, their future path would be smoother and further than other cultivators. Noticing Ren Tianxiong and the rest's gaze, Gong Shaoqing immediately knew what they were thinking. He smiled and said, "This has nothing to do with me." They relied on their own strength to reach this step. As Di Beichen's voice fell, the eyes of Ren Tianxiong and the others were filled with deep shock. Di Beichen's words could not be false. However, Tiangang sect was one of the top 10 sections. Other than cultivators in the top 100, it was impossible for others to join. Did this mean that Gong Shaoqing and the rest were in the top 100? Ren Tianxiong, Huan Chuyu, and the others looked at each other in disbelief. The possibility was too small. You guys are in the top 100? Huan Chuyu couldn't help but ask. At such a time, even he was feeling somewhat nervous. If Gong Shaoqing and the rest really made it to the top 100 list, it would be too amazing. Yeah, we're all in the top 100. Dongfang Yu's handsome and elegant face was filled with a happy smile. His pair of peach blossom eyes were overflowing with happiness. He didn't find it strange that the principal and vice principal were so surprised. In fact, it wasn't just the principal who found it strange. Sometimes, when he thought about it, even he himself found it unbelievable. As soon as he said this, the principal's office was so quiet that even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. Ren Tianxiong, Huan Chuyu, Lu Huaiyan, and Fu Hongba looked at Dongfang Yu's group as if they were looking at a freak. This news really shocked them. They had never thought of such a possibility, not even in their dreams. Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng were also dumbfounded. They didn't ask about this yesterday because they thought it was almost impossible. As long as Gong Shaoqing and the others were able to return safely, it was enough to make everyone happy. Bringing up this topic would only make everyone feel uncomfortable. Chapter 1654. Gong Shaoqing and the others were all on the top 100 list. All of them were on the list. This kind of thing was impossible even in a large empire's team. Gong Shaoqing and the others had simply created a miracle. What is your rank? Huan Chuyu couldn't help but ask. Everyone had made it to the top 100. This result was really a pleasant surprise. When Huan Chuyu asked the question, Ren Tianxiong couldn't help but pick up his teacup. The news just now really gave him a big surprise. He had to suppress his shock. My rank is the last, I'm 30th, Xia Jiqing took the lead to speak, her face filled with a faint and happy smile. The difference in points between the four of them was not big. In their team, her cultivation was the lowest, so it was normal for her rank to be the last. However, when Xia Jiqing said this, Ren Tianxiong, who was drinking tea, couldn't help but spit out the tea in his mouth. Cough cough. Ren Tianxiong coughed, but he didn't care about the mess on the ground. His eyes were fixed on Xia Jiqing. 30th? And last? Huan Chuyu and the others were also dumbfounded. They stared at Xia Jiqing and the others, their hearts filled with horror. Originally, they only thought that Gong Shaoqing and the others could be ranked in the 90s, which was already very good. If they could be ranked in the 80s, it would really be a great result. They didn't think that Xia Jiqing would say 30th. This really shocked them and they couldn't believe it was true. 30th? Lu Huaiyan couldn't help but ask again, wondering if Xia Jiqing had said something wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and confirmed her answer, yes. I'm 29th. Bai Junyu followed. I'm 28th. Dong Fangyu smiled. Gong Shaoqing also followed, I'm 27th. Hearing Gong Shaoqing and the others' rankings, Huan Chuyu and the others were even more surprised. It was really rare to see their rankings so close. Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng's hearts were filled with envy. If they had participated in the assessment with Gong Shaoqing and the others, then they would be proud of them now. The cultivators of Tiangang sect, this identity was enough to make all cultivators envious. From then on, their lives would take two completely different paths. It could be said that the difference between heaven and earth was like that between the clouds and the mud. Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng felt bitter in their hearts. If they had given it their all back then, they would have definitely been able to participate in the assessment with Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. However, after they understood the brutality of the great examination competition, they panicked. They were afraid that they would not be able to return after participating in the great examination competition. It was precisely because of that trace of fear that they did not persist in the assessment array. And now, they were regretting it. Zhang Yunfeng looked at Xia Jiqing with envy. In fact, she was stronger than Xia Jiqing at that time, but she didn't succeed. All of this was because Xia Jiqing had a fearless heart. From the beginning to the end, Xia Jiqing never thought of retreating, but she was not as fearless as Xia Jiqing. However, no matter how envious they were, it was useless. The assessment competition had ended, and everything had been settled. Chapter 1655. Thinking about it, this gap was already a gap that could not be crossed, and it would be impossible to catch up in the future. Why are your points so close? Fu Hongba was puzzled. Logically speaking, it was impossible for their points to be so close. Dong Fangyu smiled, whenever we get points from other cultivators, we split them equally. That's why our rankings are so close. In addition to the points they got, they usually hunted monster beasts together. Although the number of monster beasts they hunted was different, the gap between their points would not be too big. It was because of this that their rankings were so close. Listening to Dong Fangyu's words, Fu Hongba and the others understood. However, after knowing that Dong Fangyu and the others got points all the way, they were also amazed. They were very clear that in their eyes, the strength of Gong Xiaoqing's group was naturally very good, but in the entire Xingxian continent, it was incomparable. They never thought that Gong Xiaoqing and the others could get such a result, and they felt extremely proud. Saying this, Ren Tianxiong and the others couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. Gong Xiaoqing and the others had already said their rankings, only Bailey Hongzhuang had not said anything. Bailey Hongzhuang, you are 26th. Lu Huaiyan asked aloud. Since Xia Jiqing's ranking was the last, and Gong Xiaoqing and the others' rankings were connected, then Bailey Hongzhuang could only be in front, and not behind. Thinking about it, she should be 26th, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. Without waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang to speak, Xia Jiqing's voice had already sounded. Boss is not 26th, she is first. Although it was not her own result, Xia Jiqing was also proud of Bailey Hongzhuang. Such a result was enough to move anyone. Huang Dang. The teacup in Ren Tianxiong's hand fell to the ground. His hands were faintly trembling, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. None of the things that had happened before could be compared to this. This was too unbelievable. Not only Ren Tianxiong, but Huan Chuyu and the others were also stunned. First place. That was a result they didn't even dare to think about. The person in front of them was actually the champion of the assessment competition. Cui Haoyan and Zhang Yunfeng couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. This result was simply amazing. In such an intense environment like the assessment competition, Hong Zhuang was actually able to achieve such results. It was really amazing. You are the champion of the assessment? Ren Tianxiong stared at Bailey Hongzhuang. He had never thought that one day a student from the Azure Water School would be the champion of the examination. This was the greatest wish of all the principals, but it had never been fulfilled. He never thought that his wish would come true this time, and it was completely beyond his expectations. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Yes. After getting Bailey Hongzhuang's answer, Ren Tianxiong couldn't help but laugh. Ha, good. Sure. Such a result was definitely the best result ever achieved by a student of the Azure Water School. This is too shocking. You are really amazing. Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hongba looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a completely different gaze. Now they could no longer be Bailey Hongzhuang's mentor. They were afraid that Bailey Hongzhuang could already be their mentor. Chapter 1656. Principal, we came back this time to tell you the good news. Xia Jiqing's face was filled with a happy smile. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Previously, the Kanglan College withdrew from the 3 major colleges and was excluded. Now this situation can be changed. The reason why they came back was that they wanted to change the situation of the Kanglan College. At the beginning, when they participated in the college tournament, they were oppressed by the Qing dynasty. If the college chose to listen to the Qing dynasty, then Bailey Hongzhuang would never come back. However, whether it was the vice principal or the mentor, they stood on their side and always protected the students. Even if they were enemies with the other 2 colleges and the enrollment was not small, the principal never had the slightest dissatisfaction. Just this point alone was enough to make them feel touched. So, they came back. At the beginning, the college was affected because of them, and now they hoped that the college would become brilliant again because of them. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Ren Tianxiong and Huan Chuyou's faces changed. They were very clear about the meaning of Bailey Hongzhuang's words. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others wanted to help the Kanglan College rebuild its glory. As Bailey Hongzhuang said, as long as the news of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others on the top 100 list was released, it would definitely attract a large number of talented cultivators. What's more, Bailey Hongzhuang was the first in the top 100 list. What kind of achievement was this? Just this point alone, Lingyin College and Beihai College could no longer suppress them. Because, they simply could not suppress them. Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hongba's faces could not help but show a touch of excitement. In the past 2 years, they had been extremely aggrieved when they were recruiting. Before, the situation of the Kanglan College's enrollment was better, but since they withdrew from the 3 major colleges, all kinds of unfavorable news continued to come. Most of the outstanding students were recruited by Lingyin College and Beihai College. As a result, the results of the Kanglan College in the past 2 years were not as good as before. What was even more infuriating was that Lingyin College and Beihai College had not only gone too far, they were even mocking them in the market. Now that they heard Bailey Hongzhuang's words, it was as if they could see the day they could hold their heads high. How could they not be excited? Ren Tianxiong and Huan Chuyo's gazes landed on Bailey Hongzhuang. Back then, they felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was an extraordinary woman. However, they had never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would do such a thing for the college. In this world, there were many ungrateful cultivators. What's more, when Bailey Hongzhuang encountered that kind of danger in the college tournament, it was all for the sake of the college. It was their duty to protect Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang had come to help them after achieving such great results, how could they not be moved? At least, there were not many cultivators in the world who could do such a thing. Lingyin College and Beihai College have become more and more excessive in the past 2 years. Especially Lingyin College, they have always suppressed us in the open and in the dark. They are extremely hateful. Cui Haoyan's face was full of anger. In the past 2 years, he had felt it particularly obvious. He had wanted to fight back for a long time, but he had never had a chance. He could only endure it. Chapter 1657. Listening to Cui Haoyan's words, the faces of Gong Shaoqing and the others turned cold. When they first participated in the college tournament, they did not have a good impression of Lingyin College. They did not expect Lingyin College to be so excessive in these 2 years. This time, they wanted to see how arrogant Lingyin College would be. Lingyin College is usually so arrogant. The members of the royal family of the Qing dynasty that they are most proud of have all fallen. This time, I am afraid they will not be able to do anything. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was slightly cold. She was extremely disgusted with Lingyin College and the royal family of the Qing dynasty. Yes, those guys thought they were so great, but in the end, they were just looking for their own deaths. Xia Jiqing sneered. When she thought of Nangong Yu, and the others threatening them in the assessment and finally losing their lives, she felt extremely ridiculous. Speaking of which, if they did not seek death, they would not die. Listening to the words of Gong Shaoqing and the others, the eyes of the principal and the mentor also changed a little. Looking at the situation, there was a hidden meaning in their words. Did you meet the cultivators of the Qing dynasty during the assessment? Zhang Yunfeng could not help but ask. She was extremely disgusted with the cultivators of the Qing dynasty. If there was a chance, she would not hesitate to send them all to hell. It was just that she could not do this with her strength, so she could only think about it in her heart. We met them. They took the initiative to find trouble with us. They wanted to threaten us so that they could kill us all. But the final result was completely different from what they thought. They were all killed by us. Xia Jiqing smiled and nodded, her expression was a little proud. When she thought of the stupid things that Nangong Yu, and the others had done before, she felt ridiculous. They had tried to steal a chicken but ended up losing the rice used to lure it. As soon as these words came out, Zhang Yunfeng and Cui Haoyan once again took a breath of cold air. They did not expect everyone to be so domineering in the assessment, directly killing these enemies. Great! Cui Haoyan's eyes were bright. He felt that he had finally vented his anger and was extremely happy. Presumably, Lingyin College will not feel good after knowing this result. I want to see what results they can use to be arrogant now. When they thought of what Lingyin College had done in the past 2 years, the more proud they were before, the more painful it was now. He was more and more looking forward to the performance of Lingyin College after knowing the results of Hengzhuang. Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hengba also smiled. It's indeed satisfying. In the past, they were often angered by Lingyin College and Beihai College. Since the college tournament, the situation had become more and more serious. The two of them had endured it for a long time. Now that they knew that the proud student of Lingyin College had died in the exam, and at the hands of their students, they felt very happy. After saying this, Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hengba couldn't help but look at the two principals. Although these were their heartfelt words, it seemed a little inappropriate to say it in front of the principal. Ren Tianxiong and Huan Chuyu's gazes landed on Lu Huaiyan and Huan Chuyu. Just when Lu Huaiyan and Huan Chuyu were thinking about what to say, Ren Tianxiong and Huan Chuyu's words shocked everyone. Well done. Ren Tianxiong slapped the table. Chapter 1658. Ren Tianxiong's face was full of joy. Jian Qingqiu has been so arrogant all these years. Now we can finally hold our heads up high. When everyone saw Ren Tianxiong so happy, they were stunned for a moment, and then they all laughed. It seemed that the principal's thoughts were the same as theirs. In fact, Ren Tianxiong's anger towards the two colleges was deeper than Beili Hongzhuang and the others. Because they had been holding a grudge for a long time. As early as when Jian Qingqiu held the inter-academy competition, Jian Qingqiu had coerced him time and time again, which made him extremely unhappy. After that, Jian Qingqiu actually did something so excessive in the last inter-academy competition. It was simply unforgivable. From the beginning to the end, he had agreed with Huan Chuyu's decision to withdraw from the three colleges. Instead of being associated with Lingyin College and Beihai College, which only cared about fame and fortune, it was better to withdraw and stick to their own way. For him, fame and fortune were not the most important. Completing the original intention of the principal to establish the college was the most important. Over the years, he had been holding back his anger for a long time, but he had been unable to defeat Lingyin College, so he could only endure it. Now, his students had defeated the students that Jian Qingqiu was proud of. He had won this round. The atmosphere in the principal's office became extremely lively. After confirming what to do next, the principal and the tutor asked everyone about their experiences in the assessment tournament. At noon, Ren Tianxiong insisted on inviting everyone to eat together. Beili Hongzhuang and the others could not refuse, so they went together. When the students of Kanglan College saw that the principal and the vice principal had invited the special enrollment students to eat, their expressions could not help but change a little. The principal actually invited Gong Senpai and the others to eat. This is too surprising. I have been in the college for so long, but I have never seen the principal and the students eat together. I don't know what kind of great achievements Gong Senpai and the others have to make the two principals and the tutor have lunch with them. The students were surprised. For them, the tutor was relatively easy to get close to, but the principal was difficult to see. The vice principal was almost always in the alchemist guild. As long as there were no special things, they would not see the vice principal at all. As for the whereabouts of the principal, they were even more elusive. Apart from seeing the principal when they first arrived, they had almost never seen him. They could not even talk, let alone eat together. In the afternoon, a piece of news quickly swept the entire college and even Kanglan City. The entire Kanglan City was in a sensation, and everyone was talking about the news. Have you heard? The special enrollment students who participated in the assessment tournament were actually in the top 100. I have heard of it. Who doesn't know this news? They are already disciples of Tiangang Zong. Oh my God, this is really amazing. Someone from our academy actually became a disciple of Tiangang sect, and there are as many as 5 of them. Now I have the capital to brag when I go back. I saw the disciples of Tiangang sect with my own eyes. The group of students who did not understand why the principal and tutors treated the cultivators of the special admissions class differently now completely understood. With such an impressive identity, it was only right for the principal to treat them this way. Chapter 1659. Lingyin College. Jian Qingqiu's face was ugly to the extreme. Since the 2-year period was up, he had been waiting for Nan Gongyu, and the others to come back. He believed that with the existence of Wei Junjie, ordinary cultivators would not be his opponent at all. As everyone knew, the strength of a poison master was far beyond that of an ordinary cultivator. All kinds of powerful poisons were enough to make it impossible for cultivators to guard against them. Even though the cultivators who participated in the assessment were all genius cultivators of various dynasties, there were very few poison masters. Even in a dynasty, it was rare to meet a poison master. He believed that with Wei Junjie in the team, the Qing Shao dynasty would be able to achieve excellent results this time. Once Nan Gongyu, and the others achieved good results, as long as they could come back alive, then their Lingyin College would have the capital to promote. The cultivators who had participated in the assessment competition, he believed that many young cultivators would come because of their reputation. At that time, the reputation of Lingyin College would become more and more famous. However, he had waited for so long, but there was no news of Nan Gongyu, and the others coming back. As time passed, the worry in his heart became more and more intense. The assessment competition is clearly over, but they haven't come back yet. Did something happen? Jian Qingqiu couldn't understand. It was reasonable to say that with such a lineup, it was impossible to fail. In the history of the Qing Shao dynasty, there had been cases of complete annihilation, but sometimes they could come back safely. According to the frequency of this kind of thing happening in the past, it was half and half, but this time the camp was obviously stronger than before, so there should be no problem. Just as Jian Qingqiu was waiting, Lin Yinghao quickly walked in from the outside, his face full of anxiety. "Principal, things are not good." Listening to Lin Yinghao's words, Jian Qingqiu couldn't help but frown. His mood was already very bad, and now Lin Yinghao had come to touch his bad luck, his mood was even worse. What happened? Jian Qingqiu looked at Lin Yinghao impatiently. The most important thing for him now was the results of the assessment competition. Other than that, nothing else was important. The news of the assessment competition has come. Lin Yinghao didn't care about Jian Qingqiu's impatience. This was very important news. Jian Qingqiu immediately put away his impatience and his face became serious. Bad news about the assessment. Lin Yinghao's expression was ugly. He nodded and said, the cultivators from the Green Firmament dynasty were completely annihilated. Jian Qingqiu's expression changed. He grabbed Lin Yinghao's clothes and said, "What did you say?" "The entire army has been wiped out. This is the news from the royal family." Right now, the entire royal family is at its lowest point. Lin Yinghao didn't care about Jian Qingqiu's actions. In fact, when he first heard the news, he also found it unbelievable. Originally, they all believed that Wei Junjie and the others would be able to achieve good results this time. They were just waiting for them to return home with glory and give them a big welcome. But who would have thought that the final result would be like this? Seeing that Lin Yinghao was so certain, Jian Qingqiu's face turned pale. His hands gradually let go of Lin Yinghao, and his expression was somewhat empty. The entire army was wiped out. They were completely annihilated. As a result, his wishful thinking had come to naught. Chapter 1660. With the addition of Wei Junjie, how could Nan Gongyu, and the others be completely wiped out? Jian Qingqiu was also a person who had seen the world. After a short period of frustration, he quickly recovered and asked Lin Yinghao for the specific details. Lin Yinghao shook his head and said, "I don't know, no one knows which dynasty they fell in the hands of." Boom! Jian Qingqiu took 2 steps back and fell directly on the stool. This result was simply too hard to accept. They were so confident in the assessment competition, but they did not expect their luck to be so bad. Principal, there is another piece of bad news. Lin Yinghao looked at Jian Qingqiu hesitantly. This news was also something he did not want to see. After Jian Qingqiu heard another piece of bad news, he could not help but have a look of doubt in his eyes. He said, "Say it." At this time, Jian Qingqiu did not care anymore. After all, the worst situation had already happened. What could be worse? However, when Lin Yinghao said this, Jian Qingqiu found that this was even worse news. The cultivators of the Kanglin College participated in the assessment competition and were on the list of the top 100. Now they are disciples of the Tiangang sect. Lin Yinghao looked at Jian Qingqiu worriedly. This result was really unexpected. Sure enough, Jian Qingqiu's face couldn't be any darker. Since the Kanglin College resolutely withdrew from the three major colleges, they had been suppressing the Kanglin College. After cooperating with the royal family of the Qing dynasty, their reputation was much better than the Kanglin College. Therefore, it was not difficult for them to suppress the Kanglin College. They did not expect the students of the Kanglin College to achieve such good results. It seemed that the Kanglin College was going to make a comeback this time. Who is on the list of the top 100? Jian Qingqiu's eyes were as sharp as a knife, shooting straight at Lin Yinghao. The list of the top 100 was not something that ordinary people could get on. Even in the Lingyin College, there had not been a cultivator who had climbed to the top 100. The Kanglin College had not recruited many students over the years. How could such a cultivator appear? Bailey Hongzhuang. Lin Yinghao replied. Bailey Hongzhuang. Jian Qingqiu gritted his teeth as he said this name. It was precisely because of the existence of Bailey Hongzhuang that the plan for the college tournament went wrong. It actually allowed the Kanglin College to be in the limelight. However, after learning about Bailey Hongzhuang's identity, Jian Qingqiu understood that he could not afford to offend her. Tiangang sect's young master's wife. With such a status, it would be very easy to kill him. Bailey Hongzhuang's identity is unusual. It's not strange that she's in the top 100. This can only be attributed to Ren Tianxiong's good luck. Jian Qingqiu's eyes flashed with a sinister and cold light. He had fought with Ren Tianxiong for so many years. It was not easy for him to defeat Ren Tianxiong. He did not expect the situation to turn around now. God knows how Ren Tianxiong managed to recruit Bailey Hongzhuang into the school. Bailey Hongzhuang was also strange. As the wife of the young master of the Tiangang sect, she actually went to the Kanglin College to cultivate. Wasn't this looking for trouble? Principal, but Bailey Hongzhuang is not the only one in the top 100. Chapter 1661. Hearing Lin Yinghao's words, Jian Qingqiu's face suddenly changed. He stood up again and asked, "How is it possible? Who else is there?" It was already a great thing for the Kanglin College to have Bailey Hongzhuang on the list. How could there be a second person? Lin Yinghao said with a bitter face, Gong Shaoqing, Dong Fangyu, Bai Junyu and Xia Jiqing are all on the list. As soon as these words came out, Jian Qingqiu couldn't help but be stunned. He looked at Lin Yinghao in surprise, wondering if he had heard wrong. You said Dong Fangyu and the others are on the list? How is this possible? Jian Qingqiu was speechless. Coming back alive and being on the list are two completely different concepts. Jian Qingqiu didn't believe it from the bottom of his heart. This was simply impossible. It was never easy to get on the list. Even in the history of the Qing Shao dynasty, there was only one cultivator who climbed the list. How could the Kanglin College suddenly have so many cultivators climb the list together? This was simply a fantasy. Principal, this is true. Lin Yinghao's face was full of seriousness. He immediately handed a letter to Jian Qingqiu and said, "Look at this and you will know." When he first heard the news, he also felt that something must have gone wrong. This kind of thing was simply impossible. However, the facts made him have to admit that all this was true. Even if they didn't want to believe it, there was no way. Jian Qingqiu took the letter from Lin Yinghao's hand and opened it. He saw that the list of the top 100 in the assessment competition was written on the letter. Jian Qingqiu looked up from the 100th place. He couldn't find the names of Xia Jiqing and the others. He couldn't help but frown. There was clearly no one. However, when Jian Qingqiu's eyes fell on the 30th place, his face suddenly became ugly. 30th place, Xia Jiqing. 29th place, Bai Junyu. 28th place, Dong Fangyu. 27th place, Gong Shaoqing. How is this possible? Jian Qingqiu's eyes widened and his face was full of disbelief. He looked left and right and felt that all this was fake. However, he knew very well that no one would fake this kind of thing and there was no need to fake it. Dong Fangyu was actually ranked 28th in the exam. How is that possible with his strength? Jian Qingqiu had a deep impression of Dong Fangyu. At that time, Nangong Xiujie humiliated Dong Fangyu in every possible way, but Dong Fangyu didn't have the slightest power to fight back. However, for someone like Dong Fangyu to be able to achieve such a result in the top 100 was simply a fantasy. But, what was written in black and white was clearly true. What was going on? We don't know why this happened either. The royal family confirmed it several times and finally confirmed that it was true, Lin Yinghao said. Jian Qingqiu's face was so gloomy that it could drip water. If the cultivators of Kanglan College had achieved such impressive results, then how could they compare with Kanglan College? Not to mention that all the previous suppression was useless. Now that the Kanglan College was elated, the unlucky ones would be them. Thinking of this, Jian Qingqiu could not accept it at all. Chapter 1662. Where is Bailey Hongzhuang? Why didn't I see Bailey Hongzhuang's name? Jian Qingqiu looked for a long time but didn't see Bailey Hongzhuang's name. He couldn't help but wonder. Lin Yinghao braced himself and said, "Principal, look up." Hearing this, Jian Qingqiu couldn't help but frown. He didn't see Bailey Hongzhuang's name in the top 20. Top. Jian Qingqiu looked down from the top. However, after he saw the name of the first place, his eyes widened. He looked at all this in disbelief. First place. Jian Qingqiu breathed and stared at the name of the first place. Bailey Hongzhuang was the first. Lin Yinghao nodded and his face also became pale. When he learned that Bailey Hongzhuang had won the first place in the assessment competition, he also felt incredible. At this moment, the Kanglan College had completely turned over and they could no longer suppress them. As long as this result was released, he was almost certain that the status of the Kanglan College would rise rapidly. It might even become the first college in the vicinity in a short time. Jian Qingqiu fell into the chair again. Such a proud result was Bailey Hongzhuang, who was killed by the royal family. When Bailey Hongzhuang left, the royal family fell into great turmoil. They had long known that Bailey Hongzhuang was not simple. However, now Bailey Hongzhuang's results were getting more and more amazing. Not only did they need to worry, but even the entire royal family should be worried. Beihai College. After Zhang Hongxi knew the results of the top 100, he was stunned on the spot. Looking at the familiar names above, especially the most eye-catching Bailey Hongzhuang, he felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. Since the end of the college tournament, he had been worried about the future of the college. After discussing with him for a long time, Jian Qingqiu decided to go on like this because they had no way out. Therefore, they had been suppressing the Kanglan College for the past 2 years. They believed that as long as this continued, the Kanglan College would soon collapse. Everything had been going well all this time. They didn't care about the departure of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. In their view, since Bailey Hongzhuang was Di Beichen's wife, she would naturally stay in Tiangang's sect and would not return to Kanglan College to cultivate. However, Who would have thought that not only did they participate in the competition, but they also achieved such good results. As long as Tsanglan College publicized this result, the status of Tsanglan College would rise. That was because the other academies couldn't obtain such a result at all. It was really too shocking. It's over now. Sang Hongxi stared blankly at the names on the list. His face turned pale in an instant, as if he had lost his soul. Su Mingkong, the principal of Beihai College, looked at Sang Hongxi angrily. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others have achieved such good results. What are you going to do? This is all your fault. Su Mingkong's face was full of anger. He wanted to kill Sang Hongxi. As early as 2 years ago, after the college tournament, he had planned to keep a certain distance from Lingyin College. If this continued, he was afraid that it would implicate Beihai College. Chapter 1663. Fengbo Country. Xianyuan Yutian couldn't help but smile when he saw Xianyuan Huan and the others return safely. Before the start of the assessment, he thought for a long time before deciding to let Xianyuan Huan participate in the assessment. Because of the previous engagement, Xianyuan Huan's reputation in Fengbo Country dropped a lot, causing many people to question him. If Xianyuan Huan accepted the throne like this, there would be some unforeseen events. Therefore, he decided to let Xianyuan Huan participate in the assessment. As long as Xianyuan Huan can come back alive from the assessment, no one will dare to question him. In these 2 years, he has been very worried. At first, with Xianyuan Huan's mischievous nature, he also hesitated, but when Xianyuan Huan replaced them to kneel in front of Di Beichen, he found that his son who was always mischievous had become an indomitable man. It was because of this that he decided to pass the throne to Xianyuan Huan. Fengbo Country was just a small dynasty, and there had been a situation where the whole army was wiped out. Occasionally, cultivators could come back safely, which was already a very happy thing. This time, he also decided to take a gamble. Not only him, but Xianyuan Huan was also very persistent. Finally, under the prayers of everyone, Xianyuan Huan and the others returned safely to Fengbo Country. The whole country rejoiced. Bailey Jintao was also worried about Bailey Haoshuan. The general's mansion was originally full of people, but now only he and Bailey Haoshuan were left. If something happened to Bailey Haoshuan, then he really couldn't hold on anymore. When the emperor ordered Bailey Haoshuan to participate in the assessment with Xianyuan Huan, he had to obey as a subject, but he was worried in his heart. Fortunately, God didn't cut off his last hope, and Bailey Haoshuan came back. Imperial Palace. Jiang Jinying looked at Xianyuan Huan excitedly and said, Huan, it's great that you are safe and sound. Mother has been worried to death these 2 years. Since Xianyuan Huan participated in the assessment, Jiang Jinying has never slept well. She only had one son, and if something happened to Xianyuan Huan, she really didn't know what to do. Xianyuan Huan said with a smile, Mother, didn't I come back safely? Don't worry. Xianyuan Yutian patted Xianyuan Huan's shoulder, his face full of smiles. Good boy. I knew that my son would come back safely. After a series of greetings, Xianyuan Huan finally spoke up, Actually, it is all thanks to Bailey Hongzhuang that I was able to return safely this time. Otherwise, I'm afraid we wouldn't have been able to return. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang saved them, no cultivators came to find trouble with them. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the others defeated the cultivators of the Azure Forest dynasty, even fewer cultivators came to find trouble with them. Almost the majority of the empires felt that the Tiangang Empire's group was an existence that couldn't be provoked. It was precisely because of this that they were able to survive until the end of the competition. If it wasn't for that, they would have died in the competition. Hearing the name Bailey Hongzhuang again, Xianyuan Yutian and Jiang Jinying were both stunned for a moment and looked at Xianyuan Huan in surprise. You met Bailey Hongzhuang again? Since Bailey Hongzhuang left, they felt that they would never see Bailey Hongzhuang again in this life. Chapter 1664. Xianyuan Huan nodded and said, Bailey Hongzhuang also participated in the assessment competition. We met her there. As soon as these words came out, Xianyuan Yutian and Jiang Jining couldn't help but look at each other with a puzzled expression. Why did Bailey Hongzhuang participate in the assessment competition? Xianyuan Huan shook his head, I don't know. Her strength is much stronger than before. If it wasn't for Bailey Hongzhuang's help, we would have been completely wiped out. Xianyuan Yutian and Jiang Jining immediately understood the meaning of Xianyuan Huan's words and were a little surprised. Bailey Hongzhuang was actually willing to help. This is really, thinking back to the time when Bailey Hongzhuang was willing to let them go, they were already very grateful. They didn't expect that Bailey Hongzhuang was still willing to help. Thinking back to what they did to Bailey Hongzhuang, they really felt guilty. Xianyuan Huan's heart was also a little heavy. It was because of Bailey Hongzhuang's actions that he felt that he was really terrible in the past. However, he also knew that the reason why Bailey Hongzhuang made a move was just a matter of convenience. In Bailey Hongzhuang's heart, there was no longer any place for him. When Xianyuan Huan was explaining the situation to Xianyuan Yutian and the others, Bailey Haoshuan was also talking with Bailey Zhentao. Father, I met Bailey Hongzhuang at the assessment competition. As Xianyuan Huan's voice fell, Bailey Zhentao's expression couldn't help but change a little. How is she? She is now completely different from the past. She is the first place in this assessment competition. From now on, she will be a disciple of Tiangang sect. Not only that, Di Beichen also specially went to the assessment competition to pick up Bailey Hongzhuang. All the cultivators in the assessment competition were shocked. Bailey Haoshuan felt incredulous when he recalled the scene that happened during the assessment. Bailey Hongzhuang, who was ridiculed by everyone at the beginning, unexpectedly became the focus of attention. Not only that, Di Beichen turned out to be the young lord of Tiangang Zone. All of this gave him a great shock. However, just by looking at Xianyuan Huan's expression at that time, he knew that Xianyuan Huan already knew about this matter. Father, did you already know that Di Beichen is the young lord of Tiangang sect? Then why didn't you tell me before? Bailey Zhentao didn't immediately answer Bailey Haoshuan's question. His mind was completely immersed in the fact that Bailey Hongzhuang won first place. First place in the assessment competition, what kind of glory was that? Bailey Hongzhuang was originally his daughter. If he had treated Bailey Hongzhuang well in the past, then he would be in the limelight now. However, he had destroyed everything with his own hands. Now that he heard this, he felt a burst of panic in his heart. What's the difference between knowing and not knowing? Bailey Zhentao sighed faintly. His original majesty had disappeared. In just a few years, he had aged a lot. Looking at Bailey Zhentao's appearance, Bailey Haoshuan hesitated for a moment and didn't say anything. Yes, knowing or not knowing didn't make any difference at all. In fact, before he knew about this matter, he felt better in his heart. After knowing this, his heart felt even worse. Chapter 1665. Sanglan College, Special Enrollment Dormitory. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were sitting in Bailey Hongzhuang's dormitory. As for Di Beichen's room, it was now occupied by He Mu and the three beasties. Bai Shi and the others are now following He Mu. Just now, they urged He Mu to go out and buy food. Bailey Hongzhuang's smile revealed a bit of helplessness. With He Mu by the three beasties' side, she was a lot more relaxed, but He Mu was going to be tired. He Mu has money on him, don't worry. Di Beichen was full of smiles. He recently found that bringing He Mu along was really beneficial. Originally, the three beasties had been following Hong Zhuang around like third wheels. Now that He Mu brought the three guys out, wouldn't he have time to be alone with Hong Zhuang? Thinking of this, Di Beichen only felt that he appreciated He Mu more and more. As a shadow guard, it was really not easy to share his worries all the time. Di Baichen secretly decided that when he returned, he must reward He Mu well. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Baichen's smile and couldn't help but narrow her eyes. Why are you so happy? Di Baichen's expression quickly returned to normal. Nothing, I'm just happy for Baishe and the others. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Baichen suspiciously. She didn't think that Di Baichen was telling the truth. Wife, I haven't seen you for so long, I just want to be alone with you for a while. Di Baichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a gentle gaze, his beautiful face full of affection. Since Hongzhuang returned, his tense heart had been relieved. But until now, they had almost never had a good conversation. It was rare that there was nothing going on today, so they could spend some time alone. A ripple appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's clear eyes. She stared at Di Baichen's bright and dazzling eyes, and the corners of her lips curled into a lotus-like smile. Wife, Master has agreed to our marriage, Di Baichen said with a smile. As soon as he said this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but have a look of surprise in her eyes. She immediately moved closer to Di Baichen. Really? Did the sect master really agree? She had always been worried that there would be many obstacles between her and Baichen, because the difference in status between the two was not small. This could be deduced from the attitude of the elders back then. Fortunately, the sect master didn't show any dissatisfaction with her from the beginning. Now that she heard Di Baichen say this, she naturally felt a burst of joy. When he saw the excitement in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, Di Baichen's gaze gradually softened. An indescribable happiness and satisfaction filled his heart. Based on Hongzhuang's reaction, he could see Hongzhuang's feelings for him. It was a good thing that he had appeared early enough and captured Hongzhuang's heart. Wife, you're so happy. Di Baichen grinned at Bailey Hongzhuang like a fox, filled with craftiness and evil charm. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but restrain her expression, and then turned around and asked, Are you happy? When he saw Bailey Hongzhuang turn around, Di Baichen couldn't help but step forward and wrap his arms around Bailey Hongzhuang's slender waist. He rested his chin on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder and said, I'm happy, how can I not be happy? Being able to marry you is the happiest thing in my life, Di Baichen. Chapter 1666. Di Baichen needs Bailey Hongzhuang's soft hands, his voice low and charming. Although we got married in Fengbo country, my identity is Fengbo country's prince, not my real identity. This time, I will marry you as Tian Gang sect's young sect leader, and announce it to the world. Only in this way, Bailey Hongzhuang is Di Baichen's real wife. Bailey Hongzhuang leans in Di Baichen's arms, her delicate and beautiful face ripples with a smile. She is really touched that Di Baichen treats her so sincerely. To me, it doesn't matter whether the world knows or not, as long as you have me in your heart. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice is gentle and beautiful, slowly narrating her inner thoughts. Di Baichen hugs Bailey Hongzhuang, you will always be in my heart, but I want everyone to know that you are my most cherished woman. Hongzhuang is his beloved woman, he doesn't want Hongzhuang to suffer any grievances, he only wants to give all the best things to Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart trembles slightly, her heart is so hot. Listening to Di Baichen's words, she only feels that all her sufferings are nothing. Even if she transmigrated and became a waste of a young lady, step by step, she has to go through hardships to get to where she is now. But as long as Di Baichen is by her side, she feels that everything is worth it. Perhaps, this is fate. Otherwise, why did she transmigrate into Bailey Hongzhuang's body, and meet Di Baichen? It is all destined. Baichen, it's so good to have you by my side. If it weren't for Baichen by her side, she doesn't know when she would know that the parents of this body are still suffering. Although she is the Bailey Hongzhuang from 1,000 years ago, after fusing with the memories of this life, she is no longer the Bailey Hongzhuang from 1,000 years ago, but the combination of the two Bailey Hongzhuang from 1,000 years ago and 1,000 years later. Although she didn't experience everything that this body has experienced before, all the memories are incomparably deep, as if she has experienced it herself, she can feel it. So now, she is the combination of these two lives. The parents of this body are her parents. If Bewitching hadn't been by her side and discovered all of this early, she didn't know when she would have known all of this. Once she finds out that her parents are no longer alive, she will regret it for the rest of her life. She has always been grateful to Bewitching. She is grateful to him for appearing in her life, for always being by her side, for protecting her in all ways. She loves Bewitching even more. No matter if he is handsome, domineering, affectionate, or decadent, she loves him. From the moment Bewitching walked into her heart, he has taken root in her heart, grew up, and occupied her whole heart. The two of them hugged each other quietly. Even when they hear each other's breathing, they feel that it is the most beautiful thing. Wife, I have something to tell you. Bewitching looks lovingly at Bailey Hongzhuang, who is snuggling in his arms. At this moment, Hongzhuang has lost her usual strength and is more like a little bird. It seems that he can only see her like this when he is by Hongzhuang's side. She is especially cute and pitiful. Bailey Hongzhuang nods slightly. She squints her eyes lazily, relaxed and at ease. What is it? Chapter 1667. Bewitching stared at Bailey Hongzhuang. He also didn't want to ruin the atmosphere. However, this matter was really important. Before returning to Tiangang's sect, he had to tell Hongzhuang first so that she could be mentally prepared. Wife, I'm afraid this matter will exceed your expectations. Bewitching said slowly. In fact, when he first heard his master talk about his past, his heart was filled with surprise. However, as they talked more and more, everything seemed to be connected as if it was a nail on a board. Now, both he and his master felt that Hongzhuang was his master's granddaughter. However, the real confirmation still needed to be completed by Hongzhuang. Hearing Bewitching's words, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but frown. She looked at Bewitching with a worried expression. Did something happen to my parents? Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's nervous state, Bewitching hurriedly caressed Bailey Hongzhuang and said, Wife, don't think too much. It's not about that. Bailey Hongzhuang let out a sigh of relief. The nervousness in her phoenix eyes also dissipated a little. She asked, Then what is it? Bailey Hongzhuang sat up straight. Just from Bewitching's tone of voice, she could tell that this matter wasn't simple. If it wasn't so, Bewitching wouldn't have asked her to mentally prepare herself first. I think that my master might be your grandfather. Bewitching pursed his thin lips. His dazzling starry eyes stared at Bailey Hongzhuang, looking straight into her heart. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but be stunned when she heard this. Her bright eyes were filled with astonishment and disbelief. Her expression was filled with confusion and suspicion. Bewitching, you're saying that the sect leader might be my grandfather? How is that possible? Didn't you say that my mother was an outstanding disciple of the Sun Moon Palace? And you didn't even know about my grandparents' existence? There were many cultivators in the Xingxian continent. As a cultivator, they would often walk in dangerous situations, and the chances of losing their lives were extremely high. It was precisely because of this that many children were orphans. This situation was not strange. According to the information Bewitching had gathered, Bailey Hongzhuang thought that Mu Lingbing had been adopted by the Sun Moon Palace and that her parents were no longer around. However, how could he suddenly get involved with the Tiangang sect master now? With the sect master's wisdom, how could he not know about his own child? Seeing the puzzled look on Bailey Hongzhuang's face, Bewitching couldn't help but explain, the reason for this is a little complicated. Master didn't think of this possibility before. He only guessed it later. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Bewitching silently, waiting for Bewitching's explanation. Whether it was Bewitching or the sect leader, they weren't people who would speak without thinking. Since they had said so, they believed that they had enough reasons to convince others. This matter started from when my master was young. Di Beichen hugged Bailey Hongzhuang and slowly told her about his master's past. Bailey Hongzhuang listened carefully to Di Beichen's words. However, the more she listened, the more shocked she became. She never thought that the sect leader would have such a past when he was young. This kind of emotional twists and turns were truly vexing. However, towards Mu Jin's, Bailey Hongzhuang admired her very much, but also felt sad for her. Chapter 1668. So, sect master is certain of all this because of my mother's name? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. Even if Mu Jin's had mentioned this name, it seemed that all of this could not be confirmed. After all, just a name could be a coincidence. Di Beichen shook his head slightly. Not only that. Back then, the person who destroyed the relationship between master and master's wife was Yu Siqing of the Yu clan. And when Yu Manlan attacked you, it was with Yu Siqing's help. The rainbow divine pearl in your body was taken out by Yu Siqing, and your parents were humiliated by the Yu clan when they begged the Yu clan to save you. All of this seems to be too much of a coincidence, and Yu Siqing hates you too much. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes gradually sharpened. From Di Beichen's words, she was keenly aware of the problem. According to a woman's intuition, she increasingly felt that this possibility was very high. Are you sure that Yu Siqing was the one who did all this? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flickered, and a cold light flashed in the depths of her eyes. Di Beichen nodded. Yes, master has already confirmed this matter. It was Yu Siqing. Not only that, master also asked Yu Siqing if she knew your identity, but Yu Siqing never answered. But it's this kind of cover-up that makes it even more suspicious, so I think that after we return to Tian Gang's sect in a few days, you and master will do a blood test, okay? Di Beichen held Bailey Hongzhuang's small hand. In this way, this identity could be completely confirmed. Whether it was or not, everyone could be at ease. Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment and nodded. Okay. Sect master had been feeling guilty for so many years because of what happened back then, and until now, she had been searching for Mu Jin's whereabouts. Even if it was to reassure sect master, she was willing to test it. If not, sect master could also be at ease. If this was the case, then this Yu Siqing was too hateful. Back then, she had ruined the relationship between the sect master and Mu Jin Se. Later on, she had even harmed her mother and herself. This woman's thoughts were simply too vicious. However, based on the way Yu Siqing had destroyed the relationship between the sect master and Mu Jin Se, it was clear that she was not a kind person. In order to obtain the person she liked, she didn't use any perverted methods. She didn't even care about her good friends. She did her best to destroy everything, destroying the sect master and Mu Jin Se's lifetime happiness. If the sect master was really her grandfather, then where was her grandmother? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but think, but she didn't say it out loud. After all, nothing had been confirmed yet, and it was still too early to say anything. If this was just their wrong guess, then it would be ridiculous to think too much about it now. However, Bailey Hongzhuang had already engraved Yu Siqing's name in her mind. It was because of Yu Siqing that she had fallen to such a state, and her parents had suffered so much. Originally, she should have enjoyed a great reputation in the Xingxian continent at such a young age. Her status would be high, her parents would be well, and she would be living the life of a pearl. However, because of Yu Siqing, she had been forced to separate from her parents. She had suffered so much at such a young age, and had lived under the ridicule and sarcasm of the masses for so many years. All of this was because of Yu Siqing. As long as Yu Siqing was still alive, she would kill her with her own hands. Chapter 1669. Di Beichen noticed the change in Bailey Hongzhuang's expression and immediately pulled Bailey Hongzhuang into his embrace, his heart aching. His embrace was warm and tight, filled with a comforting feeling. My wife, I will definitely make Yu Siqing pay the price. Di Beichen's handsome face turned cold, his hawk-like eyes filled with coldness and killing intent. That intense hatred and killing intent was enough to shock anyone. Ever since he knew that everything that Hong Zhuang had suffered was because of Yu Siqing, Di Beichen's hatred for Yu Siqing had reached the peak. He had never hated someone so much before. When he thought of how Yu Siqing's selfishness had caused his wife to suffer for so many years, he secretly made up his mind to let Yu Siqing have a taste of pain. Such a vicious and despicable woman should have been punished long ago. Bailey Hongzhuang leaned her head on Di Beichen's shoulder and nodded. She will regret everything she did. Her ink-black jade-like indifference was filled with a chilly light. She would definitely make Yu Siqing suffer 1,000 times more pain. For her parents, for the sect leader and Mu Jin's. At this point, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but raise her head to look at Di Beichen. Beichen, have you found my parents in these 2 years? Although she knew that the possibility wasn't high, Bailey Hongzhuang still wanted to know the progress. After all, only after knowing the progress would she know what to do. Di Beichen shook his head slightly. I haven't found them yet, but I've confirmed that they are in the Yu clan. It's just that their location is too hidden, so it's hard to find out. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's reply, Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't surprised, but she still frowned. If they couldn't find her parents' location, then how could they rescue them? Could they just attack the Yu clan directly? Once the Yu clan knew that they had gone there for Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing, they would definitely move the 2 of them away, or even kill them. Therefore, they couldn't act blindly without thinking. Only after rescuing her parents would they be able to act without any scruples. If we can't find them, what should we do? Bailey Hongzhuang stared at Di Beichen. This situation was really too troublesome. I believe that someone will be able to find them. Di Beichen said in a deep voice. Who? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes gradually brightened. As long as there was a chance, they couldn't give up. Slaughter Heaven Pavilion. Heaven Beichen said. As long as you paid the price, no matter what information you wanted, Slaughter Tower would be able to give you an accurate answer. As long as the price was the price. The answer. The Slaughter Heaven. It's. After hearing Di Beichen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's pretty face showed a touch of surprise. Slaughter Heaven Pavilion. Di Beichen nodded slightly and continued, that's right. I've already contacted Slaughter Heaven Pavilion. However, because the young master of Slaughter Heaven Pavilion wasn't there, they couldn't confirm whether to accept this mission or not. Now that the young master of Slaughter Heaven Pavilion has returned, I believe that there will be an answer soon. Bailey Hongzhuang's expression changed slightly. From Di Beichen's words, she knew that Di Beichen already knew about Mo Yunjue's identity. Chapter 1670. You recognized Mo Yunjue. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. What she said was an affirmative sentence, not a question. Di Beichen nodded. It was hard to forget someone as impressive as Mo Yunjue after seeing him once. What's more, the expressions of Xia Jiqing and the others were clearly reminding him. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but explain, Mo Yunjue and she didn't want Di Beichen to misunderstand. She and Mo Yunjue were just friends, nothing else. She didn't want Di Beichen to have any grudges because of such things. She only hoped to maintain enough trust with Di Beichen and not have any doubts. However, without waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang to finish speaking, Di Beichen had already hugged Bailey Hongzhuang directly. Bailey Hongzhuang's back was slightly stiff, and Di Beichen's voice sounded in her ears. During the days when I wasn't with you, Mo Yunjue was able to protect you. I'm very grateful to him. For me, the most important thing is you. You can return to me safely, this is the happiest thing for me. Di Beichen's handsome face was filled with a smile, I understand your thoughts. He never doubted Hong Zhuang's sincerity to him, not to mention that he was full of confidence in himself. Thinking back to the time when he wanted to pursue Hong Zhuang, he spent a lot of effort. When he saw Mo Yunjue's appearance, he knew that he was not very good with words. He believed that Mo Yunjue would not be his opponent. Bailey Hongzhuang didn't know the thoughts in Di Beichen's mind. She only felt extremely moved, and her hands wrapped around Di Beichen's broad back. She was very happy that Beichen trusted her so much. Just like how she trusted Beichen, there was no need for her to say anything. The other party would understand. Beichen, I also have something to tell you, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Now that they were talking about these things, she also had something very important to tell Di Beichen. Wife, please speak. Your husband is listening. Di Beichen raised his long eyebrows and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a faint smile. His voice was even more gentle and pleasant. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and continued, I obtained the final inheritance in the small world's ancient ruins. Di Beichen nodded slightly. He had also heard about this. After all, relics in small worlds had always been extraordinary existences and were extremely eye-catching. Every time an ancient ruin appeared, it would become the focus of everyone's attention. My wife is really amazing. You make your husband very proud. His bright eyes were filled with admiration and admiration. Today, Hong Zhuang's potential was becoming more and more shocking. Her performance was also becoming more and more outstanding. He firmly believed that Hong Zhuang was that pearl. Even if she had been covered in dust all these years, sooner or later, she would bloom again. From the moment Hong Zhuang spoke in the Lan family, it already meant that she was extraordinary. Looking at Di Beichen's admiration, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly and said, the owner of that ancient ruin is the palace master of Limitless Palace. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Beichen's expression changed a little. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment, Palace Master of Limitless Palace, Yulin Feng? That's right. He's my master. You actually obtained the inheritance of Palace Master Yu? Di Beichen was astonished. This news sounded unbelievable. Chapter 1671. With a playful smile on her beautiful face, Bailey Hongzhuang thought about what had happened and felt that it was very interesting. At that time, ancient ruins had always been built by experts who had already fallen. There had never been any cultivators who were still alive who built them. Therefore, when she met Yulin Feng, she felt that it was too inconceivable. Thinking back carefully, Yulin Feng's way of doing things was very normal. The reason why experts would build ancient ruins was to find a suitable successor, so as to prevent their inheritance from disappearing from this world. Rather than waiting until they were about to fall to find an inheritor, it was better to find one while they were still alive. In this way, the inheritance would be more secure. When the assessment competition ended, Limitless Palace's elder Gu Taihong recruited you because of this? Di Beichen immediately thought of what had happened at the end of the assessment competition. At that time, when Gu Taihong was recruiting Hong Zhuang, he felt that it was very strange. Logically speaking, under such circumstances, anyone would know that Hong Zhuang would not join other sects, let alone the always smart and slick Gu Taihong. He had always felt that there was a problem, but he had never thought of the answer. Now that he heard Hong Zhuang say this, he immediately understood. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, yes, Elder Gu told me to make a trip to Limitless Palace. I plan to go to Limitless Palace after returning from Azure Water School. Will you accompany me? Since my wife has ordered, your husband will naturally accompany you. Di Beichen's reply was very natural. He and Hong Zhuang had been separated for such a long time. Now that they were finally together, he was not willing to be separated from Hong Zhuang again. Bailey Hongzhuang was full of smiles. Her delicate face was now even more beautiful. That's great. My wife, what inheritance did you obtain from Palace Master Yu? Even Di Beichen was surprised when he found out that Bailey Hongzhuang had obtained Yulin Feng's inheritance. Everyone knew that Yulin Feng was a genius. Back then, he had used his own strength to sweep away many outstanding cultivators, shocking the entire Xingqian continent. No one knew where Yu Linfeng came from, but when he appeared, he was already an extraordinary existence. Under the leadership of Yu Linfeng, Limitless Palace became more and more powerful. In just a short period of time, it had become one of the most famous 10 great sects. However, Yu Linfeng was usually quite mysterious, and it was very difficult to see him in person. Moreover, there had never been any news of him accepting a disciple. He never thought that Yu Linfeng would actually build a relic in the small world. Once this news got out, it would definitely cause a lot of people to be surprised. This was because Yu Linfeng was the most famous existence in the Xingqian continent. His every move was closely watched. Moreover, Yu Linfeng had a few trump cards that were very powerful. If his wife could obtain the inheritance of this martial technique, he believed that her strength would be much stronger. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's next words shocked Di Beichen. Master said that he wants to give Limitless Palace to me. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. When these words came out, Di Beichen could not help but be stunned for a moment. He looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment and disbelief. What did you say? Chapter 1672. Master said that he wants to hand over Limitless Palace to me. Bailey Hongzhuang repeated. She understood Di Beichen's surprise. In fact, when she heard her master's words for the first time, she also felt that she had heard wrongly. For a long time, other than the experts who had already fallen, when ordinary experts were looking for an inheritor, especially the inheritor of a sect, they would need to consider it very strictly. Many experts would train their inheritors from a young age. Who could be like her master and directly choose an inheritor from the ruins? That's what master said in the ruins. However, I think I still need to make a trip to Limitless Palace to know the details. After all, it's not that easy to choose an inheritor. Bailey Hongzhuang pondered and said. Although her master seemed to be very optimistic about her, as if everything had already been decided, she would not completely accept this matter before it was truly confirmed. In this world, many unexpected things would often happen. Even if the result had already been decided, there might still be unforeseen events later on. Moreover, her master was looking for the inheritor of Limitless Palace. This definitely required more tests. Therefore, even if her master changed his decision, she would not have any dissatisfaction. This was because her master had already helped her enough so far. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Beichen nodded slightly. That perfect face of his was still filled with amazement. My wife is really not simple. After participating in the assessment competition, she became the inheritor of Limitless Palace. If this news were to spread, I'm afraid everyone would be dumbfounded. Di Beichen's face was filled with a smile. He discovered that Hongzhuang was really a strange woman. There were many ruins in Xingqian continent and there were also many ruins in small worlds. However, to be able to enter the ruins and be chosen as the inheritor of a sect by the owner of the ruins, other than his wife, he was afraid that no one else could be like her. As the young sect master of Tiangang sect, he was very clear that as the inheritor of a sect, one would need to go through all sorts of tests to establish one's identity and consolidate one's position. Thinking back to when his master brought him back to the sect and began to train him from a young age, there were also many voices of dissent in the sect. It was precisely because of this that his master's requirements for him were exceptionally strict, and he was exceptionally hardworking in his cultivation. Even so, after his master left, because of the problem with his legs, the hall master and elders still took this opportunity to let him leave Tiangang sect. This was the first time he had heard of Yu Linfeng directly choosing Hongzhuang as his successor. Just as Hongzhuang had said, nothing was certain at the moment. However, from Yu Linfeng's words, one could tell how satisfied he was with Hongzhuang. It was not that there were no female sect leaders in the sect, but the number of female sect leaders was much less than that of male sect leaders. Although both men and women were cultivators in the Xingxian continent, most of the time, men had the advantage. It was more difficult for a woman to become a sect master than a man. Even so, Yu Linfeng still made such a decision. This was enough to show how much Yu Linfeng valued Heng Zhuang. What's more, according to his understanding, although Limitless Palace Master Yu Linfeng's character was slightly strange, he was also a man of his words. Since Yu Linfeng had said such words, there shouldn't be any problems. Chapter 1673. Luck is a part of one's strength. Di Beichen's voice was natural and firm. As a cultivator walking in the Xingxian continent, luck was a very important part. Luck was an indescribable thing, but every cultivator who became a powerhouse must have a certain amount of luck. Therefore, everyone believed that luck was also a part of one's strength. Heng Zhuang was able to obtain Yu Linfeng's affirmation. On one hand, it was because of luck that she encountered the ruins. However, at that time, how many cultivators entered the ruins? They also had the same luck. However, in the end, only Heng Zhuang obtained the inheritance. This was because of her hard work and potential to reach this step. Daily Heng Zhuang understood that perhaps part of the reason why her master decided to give her Limitless Palace was because of the unfair treatment she received from the Lan family. Her master was also from the Lan family, but it must be because the Lan family did something unacceptable that made her master hate them to the extreme. If not, her master would not even want the Rainbow God Pearl. After thinking about it, Daily Heng Zhuang still did not tell Di Beichen about this. Because this was her master's matter. If she guessed correctly, even in the entire Xingxian continent, not many people would know about this matter. Since her master did not want to have anything to do with the Lan family, she naturally would not tell him about this matter. After all, this was not an extremely important matter in itself. In 2 days, we will set off for Limitless Palace. Di Beichen said slowly. Their purpose of coming to the Azure Water School had been completed, there was not much meaning in continuing to stay. Gong Shaoqing and the others were also preparing to return to their homes. After staying in the exam for 2 years, the place they wanted to go the most was home. Bailey Heng Zhuang nodded slightly, okay. She also wanted to go to Limitless Palace to take a look. Moreover, her master had helped her a lot in the ruins, she must pay a visit to her master. Oh right, Beichen, I have the Rainbow God Pearl. Bailey Heng Zhuang smiled sweetly as she looked at Di Beichen. This was one of her great gains from the assessment. Ever since she had fused with the Rainbow Divine Pearl, her strength had increased a lot. Even her dantian had become larger and more comfortable. It felt as if something was missing from her dantian. Although it didn't affect anything, she still felt a little empty. Ever since she fused with the Rainbow Divine Pearl, she realized that this was how it should be. As Bailey Heng Zhuang's voice fell, Di Beichen's eyes were once again filled with a hint of surprise. Rainbow Divine Pearl. He knew that the Rainbow's sacred pearl in Heng Zhuang's body had been transferred into Lan Qingyan's body. It was precisely because of the Rainbow's sacred pearl that no cultivator of the same level was a match for Lan Qingyan. The reason why Lan Qingyan could become so famous in the Xingxian continent all these years was largely because of the Rainbow Pearl. At the same time, the 7-colored Divine Pearl was a unique inheritance of the Lan family. Everyone was filled with envy and admiration towards the Lan family. However, how did Heng Zhuang have the Rainbow's sacred pearl in her body? According to his understanding of the Lan family's inheritance, only one person in a generation would have the Rainbow's sacred pearl in their body. Moreover, many times it would not appear for several generations. Master gave me a Rainbow's sacred pearl, and now I have already fused with it. Bailey Heng Zhuang smiled. It was rare to see Di Beichen so surprised. Chapter 1674. Palace Master Yu has the Rainbow's sacred pearl. Even Di Beichen, after hearing this news at this moment, showed a shocked expression. As everyone knew, only the Lan family had the Rainbow's sacred pearl. Ordinary people couldn't even see it, let alone have the rainbow sacred pearl. Moreover, Palace Master Yu gave such a treasure like the rainbow's sacred pearl to Heng Zhuang, which was enough to prove that Palace Master Yu was good to Heng Zhuang. Bailey Heng Zhuang nodded slightly. Yes, I was also surprised at the time. Her deep eyes revealed a clear light of thinking, as if she could see through people's hearts at a glance. Bewitching was keenly aware that Heng Zhuang still had something to tell him, but with his understanding of Heng Zhuang, since Heng Zhuang didn't say it, it meant that this matter couldn't be said. Otherwise, with Heng Zhuang's trust in him, Heng Zhuang would definitely say it. This matter should be Palace Master Yu's privacy, and he didn't have the intention to pry. Have you integrated the rainbow sacred pearl into your dantian? Bewitching couldn't help but hold Bailey Heng Zhuang's hand, and his flawless face was filled with worry. With Heng Zhuang's current situation, it was extremely dangerous to integrate the rainbow sacred pearl into her body. With a little carelessness, Heng Zhuang may die. Although he had heard a lot of dangerous things that Heng Zhuang had encountered in the small world from Bewitching and others, he had never heard of such a thing. Compared to the matter of fusing with the rainbow divine pearl, the other risks were not even considered risks. He never knew that Heng Zhuang had done such a dangerous thing in the assessment competition. Bailey Heng Zhuang nodded. Yes, it has been integrated. Such a dangerous thing, what if something goes wrong? Bewitching frowned. Even if he didn't know enough about the process, just by listening, he knew how risky it was. Looking at Bewitching's nervous look, Bailey Heng Zhuang smiled slightly. Don't worry, aren't I in front of you now? Seeing Bailey Heng Zhuang's cute and well-behaved appearance, Bewitching was also helpless. Heng Zhuang was his weakness, and he couldn't blame her at all. Suddenly, Bewitching couldn't help but think of his inexplicable heartache and nervousness in Tiangang's sect before, and couldn't help but ask, Wife, when did you integrate the rainbow sacred pearl? More than half a year ago. Bailey Heng Zhuang thought for a moment before answering. After she came out of the ruins, the rest of the journey was very easy. Speaking of which, the inheritance in the ruins, ancient ruins. Hearing this, Bewitching couldn't help but think of the heartache he felt at that time. Before, he didn't understand why he was so heartbroken that he couldn't breathe. In the narration of Bewitching and others, they never mentioned anything about it. After listening to Heng Zhuang's explanation, he finally understood what was going on. Just from his painful situation at that time, he could know how much pain Heng Zhuang had suffered at that time. He knew Heng Zhuang's personality. No matter how much pain she had suffered, she would talk about it with a light look, and wouldn't let others worry at all. But it was such a Heng Zhuang that made him feel even more distressed. Bewitching held Bailey Heng Zhuang tightly in his arms, his low voice hoarse and nervous. Wife, don't do such dangerous things in the future. Bewitching said solemnly. Chapter 1675. Bewitching had never worried about anything in the first 10 years of his life, and now Heng Zhuang was the only person he was worried about. The thought that Heng Zhuang might leave him was unbearable. Bailey Heng Zhuang's lips curved into a happy smile as she nodded, okay. The two hugged each other quietly. That night, the two talked a lot. From the past to the present, from never knowing each other to loving each other until the two fell asleep, while Bailey Heng Zhuang and Bewitching were enjoying this quiet and peaceful moment, Haimu had been accompanying the three beasts to eat. He was the young master's shadow guard, and now he had become a contract beast breeder. It seemed that he would have to do this all the time. The results of Bailey Heng Zhuang and the others caused an uproar in Kanglan City, and the practitioners of the Mercenary Union also spread the news. Even if they did not know Bailey Heng Zhuang and the others, at least they were all from Kanglan City, and they had even seen Bailey Heng Zhuang and the others. This alone was enough for them to brag about. Almost as long as they met mercenaries from other places, they would brag about it. The students of Kanglan College were in the top 100 of the assessment competition, and this news spread far and wide as the mercenaries talked about it. 1 spread to 10, 10 spread to 100, and soon, the news had been known by many practitioners. Originally, many cultivators who wanted to enter Lingyin College and Beihai College chose Kanglan College after knowing the results of Kanglan College. In the past, Kanglan College was suppressed by Lingyin College and Beihai College, and everyone thought that the strength of Kanglan College was not as good as the other two colleges. However, the results were the most important. When the cultivators knew the results of the Azure Water College, all the previous rumors had no meaning. At least Lingyin College and Beihai College had never had such a proud result. Not to mention the first place of the top 100, even the last place of the top 100 had never appeared. At this point, Kanglan College was not comparable to Lingyin College and Beihai College. Once the news came out, the enrollment of Lingyin College and Beihai College dropped sharply. Not only that, even the students of the two major schools couldn't hold back after learning about this matter. Many students were preparing to drop out and go to the Azure Water School. After discovering this, Jian Qingqiu and Su Mingkong were dumbfounded. Even though they were prepared for the reduction of the student union, the situation was obviously worse than they thought. This was because they had neglected the existence of the Mercenary Association in Azure Water City. The Mercenary Guild was the organization with the largest number of people in the Xingxian continent. Any news that spread from the Mercenary Guild would spread across the entire continent in a very short period of time. Jian Qingqiu and Su Mingkong racked their brains to get the students back, but none of their actions could move the determination of the cultivators to go to Kanglan College. Lingyin College had always paid attention to the royal family, and many civilian cultivators were suppressed in Lingyin College. The reason why they stayed in Lingyin College was because of the fame of Lingyin College, but in fact, they were more interested in Kanglan College. Because the Azure Water School truly treated everyone equally. Now, the Kanglan College was more famous than the Lingyin College. Why would they continue to stay here? Chapter 1676. Ren Tianxiong and Huan Chuyu also expected that this year's enrollment results would be better than usual, but after seeing the cultivators gathered outside the school, they were surprised. All the inns in Sanglan City were full. Not only that, but almost all the places that could rest were filled with cultivators who wanted to enter the school. Even though the prices of the inns had risen again and again, young cultivators still came in an endless stream. Not only the inns, but the restaurant's business was also rising. Originally, it was not the time for the school to enroll, but seeing so many cultivators gathered outside, Ren Tianxiong and Huan Chuyu decided to enroll first. Not only did the number of cultivators increase, but even the number of rich merchants who wanted to sponsor the expansion of the school increased. This situation could be said to be the most glorious in the history of the school. The anger in Ren Tianxiong and Huan Chuyu's hearts had long been swept away. Lu Huaiyan and the others were all proud of their success. No matter where they went, their faces were full of smiles. Now, as long as the cultivators of Tsanglan School mentioned that they were students of the school, they would feel supreme glory. This situation was completely different from the bleak past. After seeing that the school was developing in a good direction, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also said their goodbyes. They came back this time to be able to contribute to the school. Now that the effect had been achieved, there was no use for them to continue to stay. What's more, because there were more and more foreign cultivators, no matter where they went, they would attract a lot of exclamations. Not only that, even if they stayed in the dormitory for special admissions students, there would also be cultivators waiting outside so that they could speak a few words to them. After seeing the situation become more and more intense, everyone wisely decided not to continue to stay here. Ren Tianxiong and the others knew that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were leaving, and they also sent them off. If you have time, come back to the school and have a look. We will always welcome you back. Ren Tianxiong looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others with a face full of smiles. His appearance was completely different from before. Originally, he had always felt guilty. Sanglan School kept falling in his hands, and he really let down the previous principal. He didn't think that the heavens would treat him so well and instead lead the school to unprecedented glory. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others smiled and nodded. We will. The Azure Water School was the place where they met and had their best memories. If there was a chance in the future, they would definitely come back to take a look. Lu Qinyue stood beside Huan Chuyu. Her eyes flickered as she looked at Gong Shaoqing and said, "Big brother Gong, I will definitely come and find you." Gong Shaoqing nodded slightly. Okay. In addition to recruiting cultivators, Tiangang Zong also recruited excellent alchemists. Therefore, Lu Qinyue has decided to participate in the alchemist assessment. As long as she passes the alchemist assessment, she can become an alchemist of Tiangang sect. This way, she would be able to accompany Big Brother Gong. It was not easy for an ordinary alchemist to participate in the alchemist assessment of Tiangang sect, but with Bewitching, a place to participate in the assessment was nothing. Good luck, we're all waiting for you. Dongfang Yu smiled. Although they came back this time, the problem between Gong Shaoqing and Lu Qinyue had not been completely resolved. Chapter 1677. With Lu Qinyue's talent in alchemy, it should not be difficult to pass the assessment of Tiangang sect. What's more, Tiangang sect has Gong Shaoqing. Lu Qinyue will definitely do her best to pass the assessment. Gong Shaoqing has always had a cold temperament, except for Lu Qinyue, other women will not care about him. As long as Lu Qinyue continues to persevere, they believe that Gong Shaoqing will be defeated by Lu Qinyue. Hearing this, Lu Qinyue smiled and nodded, "I will." Xia Jiqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "Boss, I will go home first. When the 3 months are up, I will go to Tiangang sect to find you." "Okay, I will wait for you at Tiangang sect." Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. After coming out for so long, everyone should go back. However, when she thought of her parents, her eyes could not help but flash a deep light. Di Beichen seemed to know Bailey Hongzhuang's inner thoughts. His right hand slowly rested on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder, giving a little comfort. At least, he has always been by Hongzhuang's side. "We are also leaving, see you at Tiangang sect." Dongfang Yu smiled brightly. He used to feel bored at home, but now that he has been out for so long, he really wants to go home and take a look. "Goodbye." Everyone waved their hands, and the golden sunlight shone on everyone, warm and bright. Sunny and comfortable smiles filled everyone's faces. When they meet next time, everyone's identity will be different. Now they are standing here as students of Kanglin College, and the next time they meet, they will be cultivators of Tiangang sect. Di Beichen took Bailey Hongzhuang's small hand, his handsome face filled with a doting smile. "Wife, let's go." Bailey Hongzhuang's smile was as elegant and indifferent as a lotus. "Okay." The next moment, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang went forward together. Hei Mu hurriedly followed behind Di Beichen. The 3 beasts stuck to his body, one on each of his shoulders, and one in his arms. The 3 beasts kept jumping up and down, scratching black wood from time to time. Hei Mu felt very helpless about this. Ever since he got together with the 3 beasties, these were the most chaotic days of his life. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen pretended not to see it. It was rare for the 3 beasts to like Hei Mu so much, so the 2 of them could spend some quality time together. Ren Tianxiong and Huan Chuyu looked at the departing figures and sighed with emotion. The one who left the deepest impression on them was Bailey Hongzhuang. If it wasn't for Bailey Hongzhuang, Gong Shaoqing and the others wouldn't have achieved such results. In the short span of 2 years, they had all transformed. Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hongba were the most emotional. No wonder Bailey Hongzhuang refused their invitation. Just by relying on Bailey Hongzhuang's ability, they already had the confidence to refuse. Speaking of which, the 2 of them were even more fortunate that they insisted on inviting Bailey Hongzhuang to the college. If they had given up at that time, then they wouldn't have such an opportunity now. Now that Kanglin College's reputation was getting more and more resounding, as the teachers of the special enrollment class, they were extremely loved and respected. This kind of feeling was really what they had been pursuing. Lu Qinyue kept looking at Gong Shaoqing's back until he gradually disappeared from her sight. No matter what, she must become an alchemist of Tiangang sect. Chapter 1678. Bailey Hongzhuang walked all the way. Both of them were not in a hurry. 3 months' time was enough for them to go back and forth between Limitless Palace and Tiangang sect. After not being together for a long time, the two of them also enjoyed such a relaxing time. He Mu didn't know what was going on and followed Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang not far away. Looking at the route, it was obvious that they weren't going back to Tiangang sect. He didn't know where the young master and young madam were going, but he had always been wherever the young master was, so it didn't matter where the goal was. The three beasties obviously didn't want to disturb Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen, so they were always with He Mu. What's more, they could only be bullied by their master usually, but now they could bully He Mu. This feeling was really good. Under such circumstances, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen went on a scenic tour and were extremely happy. Limitless Palace. After Gu Taihong returned from the assessment competition, he immediately told the news of Bailey Hongzhuang to Yu Linfeng. After hearing Gu Taihong's description, Yu Linfeng's eyes also revealed a bit of surprise. You said that Bailey girl is the sweetheart of Tiangang sect's young sect master. Gu Taihong nodded. Yes, it is said that Miss Bailey is Di Beichen's fiancée. Di Beichen went to the assessment competition specifically to pick up Bailey Hongzhuang, and Di Beichen didn't hide his love for Miss Bailey in everyone's eyes. That look, it was obvious that he wanted to announce it to the world. Recalling the situation at that time, Gu Taihong explained the situation in detail. Di Beichen's approach was tantamount to publicly acknowledging Bailey Hongzhuang's identity. As the young lord of Tiangang sect, Di Beichen naturally did things after careful consideration. Since he did so, it proved that he had made up his mind to marry Bailey Hongzhuang. This news surprised everyone. After all, almost everyone thought that Han Xiling and Di Beichen were a couple. Even though Di Beichen brought a woman to Tiangang sect 2 years ago and this news was known to many people, most people did not take this matter to heart. This was because it was impossible for an ordinary woman to truly marry Di Beichen. It was precisely because no one had paid attention to it that everyone found it inconceivable when they saw Di Beichen announce it to the world. Yu Linfeng looked lazy and casual. His eyes flickered. I know Di Beichen. He's a good young man. As the young master of Tiangang sect, Di Beichen has always been the focus of everyone's attention. He had also noticed that this young man's strength and will were extremely good. Di Beichen had always been very diligent in his cultivation, and had never had any bad habits. Although he inexplicably left Tiangang Zone 5 years ago, he came back later and resolved a lot of troubles in a swift and decisive manner. That swift and decisive manner was very similar to him. He also felt that Situ Yen had found a very good successor. However, he did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would be Di Beichen's sweetheart. However, this did not seem to be a bad thing. He had a good impression of Tiangang sect. If Bailey Hongzhuang was really with Di Beichen, then the distance between Limitless Palace and Tiangang sect would be much closer. Bailey girl chose to enter Tiangang sect. Did you tell her to come to Limitless Palace? You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.